Riftbound spoiler season is well underway, and we have seen a ton of great cards that bring these legends to life, as well as some key champion units to go along with them. However, in this latest round of spoilers, I wasn't too impressed by what we were seeing until the very last card that got revealed. It honestly completely changed my mindset on the day. So this might just be one of the biggest cards of the set for how much it is going to do for all the legends that can splash it. So without further ado, let's dive in. So up first we have Karma. This is a 6 energy, 1 power, 6 might unit with vision. So when you play it, you get to look at the top card and recycle it or not. And it has a, well, interesting secondary ability here. When you recycle 1 or more cards, buff a friendly unit. And yes, runes do not count towards this. This means you do have to rely on the vision mechanic, which, yes, we have seen this come together with either Gemcraft Seer or the blue Viktor if you're playing more spells on your opponent's turn, which we know will happen in this color combination. But is that good enough? I'm not so sure. This ultimately reads like a mega 3-card combo that you want to pull together and throw together and build up this incremental advantage towards where you're getting a bunch of 2 mights coming into the battlefield, which if we are in a slower, more control-heavy style of meta, I can definitely see this taking a role. But so far, it seems like we have a lot of either low-to-the-ground strategies that are super aggressive and going wide and can just out-power scale this, or it's too slow and then you're just losing to Volibear on the other side, which is going to be able to stack that might and have a big body who's able to take out multiple tokens when they swing into a battlefield. So ultimately, this is one that it feels like it's either missing a couple of cards that we'll see later on in the spoiler season, or it is just meant to be this very, hey, you want to live the dream with a 3-card combo, and we'll see where it goes from there. Of course, getting the buffs is always nice, and there's other ways that we might be able to see Vision come to life in other combinations, but at least so far, it does feel like it's all in on the Mind and Order or blue and yellow combination that we've seen with Viktor. So it's hard to imagine this card finding a home in any other deck other than the legend Viktor, but I think it's still one that is a option that we might see more of in the future, but ultimately it's going to be a pass for me right now just based on the current spoilers that we have. Up next, we have the Forge of the Future. This is a 2 energy gear, which reads, when you play this, play 1 might recruit unit token at your base. Sure, get an extra token, and then kill this, recycle up to 4 cards from trashes. Now, this is an interesting one. We haven't seen too much other than Teemo with the guerrilla warfare that has a lot of things that we care about of recycling it from the trash or removing that option, right? If we are playing a later all-in control style of deck, spoiler, like blue, yellow, Viktor again, then I could see this finding a home. However, for its cost and the fact that this is definitely more of a sideboard card, it's not something that I'd really feel all that great, including in the main deck. I'd rather just have a unit that we can play or something else that can really utilize the token. Or the small caveat otherwise we'll see is maybe we're going to get to see more of the Malzahar package we talked about previously, or some other cards that sacrifice gears for value, and then maybe it's fine if you want to splash this. However, that Malzahar really felt it was more for Kaisa than Viktor, so we'll have to see where this lands. But this is another one that I was just kind of scratching my head at in terms of doesn't have a really great home for it just yet, other than a sideboard. And hey, sideboards are great. I'm glad that it's already a confirmed thing in Riftbound that we will have, it sounds like, 8-card sideboard so far, but it's definitely one that is, well, where does this ultimately fit in the bigger picture? Or is Teemo just going to be so much of a threat that we need to have these kinds of answers for the cards and just the extra value that they can get back, right? Hitting those hidden cards before they can get them back to their hand and just loop them for more value is definitely going to be a key strategy to shutting down what Teemo has access to. So maybe not the most exciting card that we've seen so far, but one that is likely going to find a home in some of these sideboard areas if the meta does develop in that way. Up next, we have the Kendall Lit Sanctum. So yes, a lot of recycling and a lot of filtering in today's spoilers, but when you conquer here, look at the top 2 cards of your main deck. You may recycle 1 or both of them, put those you don't back in any order. So this does combo well with Karma. And the thing that we have to acknowledge up front is that by design of the card, Karma is going to go in a little bit of these slower strategies, meaning it's going to be a bit more difficult for you to reliably conquer this battlefield. However, one of your more difficult matchups that you might expect is going to be things like Darius, which are lower to the ground and more aggressive. And this battlefield creates a very interesting problem that aggro decks are most likely going to benefit from this a lot more than it feels like the intended decks of wherever Karma lands, right? As the aggressor, the aggro deck is looking for those 1 or 2 key piece finishers to get those last couple of points. And if you checked out our latest versus video with Darius, a lot of it is attack into the battlefield for as cheap as possible as I can. On the next turn, retreat it to my base so it's safe, and then do it again. So we are able to get this effect, in theory, multiple times over a course of a game, which is going to be really great for finding our, 10 might Draven that we're going to have to try and get that last point. This was a very effective strategy in our latest gameplay video. So this is another battlefield that, we do need 3 for our decks at the end of the day. So maybe it's one that you're just picking anyways because you're trying to lean into that more Viktor Karma heavy recycle strategy. But this is one that if I play it and I am going up against a more aggressive strategy, I am going to be extremely worried about the value that they're able to get out of this battlefield compared to my own. And that's always going to be the interesting thing about Riftbound and the dynamic that this makes between what deck am I going up against, which battlefields are going to be meta or not meta in some situations, right? This is definitely one I'll be very curious to see how it plays a role based on the meta. This is definitely not something that I would feel confident slamming all of the time, but in the right scenarios, especially if we have a slightly slower meta, this is a card that I would be very excited to see. The mind games that it can play in the different aspects of control mirror matches that this can lend to. Then it becomes a very important battlefield to try to defend so your opponent can't get the extra value out of it from conquering. So the Kendall Lit Sanctum is a very interesting card, but again, one that begs the question, where will this ultimately find a home? Because it does, at least up front and where the current spoiler meta is at, this feels pretty bad to play into all of the aggressive decks. Moving on from there, we have the Pit Rookie, a 2 energy, 2 might unit that reads, when you play me, buff another unit. Now, this is not the most exciting card, but it's surely one that says, great, this is exactly what set wanted. Sure, right? We're happy to get another card that allows us to get a buff when we really need it to get the most value out of set. And currently, we only had the Synthria as kind of our opener that for set lacked a little bit for that more lower to the ground aggressive strategy. And this does lean more towards of, hey, we want to be lower to the ground. We don't really want to go over like 6 runes at a time with set. So this does give us that option in terms of just having a lower costed unit that can apply a buff, lean into set's legend ability, and go from there. Overall, again, maybe not an exciting card, but one that you are absolutely going to play in the set deck. So one that I'm most excited for just for the sake of the set deck is more complete. So why not? I will definitely look forward to printing this one out, including it in the deck list, and then seeing how it plays out with the rest of these spoilers. I'm sure there's going to be some slightly slower version of set that comes about that's more around like the starting at 4 energy curve and, always trying to find the arena bar or like whatever your setup is for turn 1 and then go into bigger units. But I think it's nice that we at least have 2 different directions for set so far. And again, we really just need to wait and see when we get the other set to see the 2 different play styles. I think this legend will ultimately go in the direction of. And then last but not least, we gotta talk about Kiana. Like, this is the all-star, the MVP of the day, the absolute top 10 cards of Origin set, no doubt about it. 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might, has deflect for no reason, but when I conquer, draw 1 or channel 1 rune exhausted. I cannot possibly stress enough that this is, as of today, good in every single body deck, and in every single one of them, this is a 3 of. In the set deck, we definitely need the card draw. In the Volibear deck, we need more cards that we can play early. That, spoiler, this also just says we can ramp when we need to, right? We can't just let our opponents run away with the game. For any other deck besides those 2, if you're either being lower to the ground and needing to draw cards, or you're playing the ramp deck that needs more ramp, this card just does it all. The fact that it has deflect as well means it's going to be more sticky on your board. And good God, in the case of set where you're also able to buff this up, this is now just a 5 might that is constantly going to be able to pressure drawing extra cards or channeling back some of those runes that you previously missed out on. So Kiana is definitely the all-star of the day that just brings body up to the next level. And again, all the legends are super happy to see this card. Thankfully, it's only a rare, so it's not going to be too expensive, but it is one that at least for now, every single one of my body decks are starting with 3 of it because the flexibility that it offers is obviously just so insane. Again, with the fact that Set can also loop it back, making sure that it's just stickier. Getting multiple of these, I assume, are going to also stack. So if we find games where we get 2 Kianas and they're both attacking into a battlefield and they both survive, I'm assuming that is just going to be a draw 2 for us as well. So because of Set's ability in keeping our units on the board, this allows for a absolutely insane snowballing effect that really makes this stand out from the current card pool. And honestly, it's kind of difficult to think about the last time that we got a card that was so strong for every legend of that color that can use it. So Kiana is definitely going to be one that we'll have to see how it shapes up in the rest of the future format. But again, if you are playing today and just trying to get your hands around Riftbound, start with 3 of this in your deck. You won't regret it. The card is insane for what it wants to be doing. And I think it is one that will do very well for body legends in the near future. So with that out of the way, let me know your thoughts. What is your favorite card from today's reveals? Is Kiana one of the top 10 cards in Riftbound overall, or is she overrated? Definitely let me know your thoughts below, and we'll see how the future reveal season treats us with more cards coming up soon. It does sound like there's going to be a little bit of a break next week for holiday as Riot is out of office, and we only have, I think, 2 spoilers to come in. But when we have more, we'll definitely get ready for another video and more gameplay content to come in the future. So until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.